now, as Kamala Harris has lost, and no one's done the in-depth think piece other than us on how problematic she was. Forget the team around her and their decision making. Yes, that too. But it's been hands off of her. We now get the press turning on Joe Biden. So it's like now they're getting really honest about Joe Biden. Okay, yes, fine, but still nothing on her. Pod Save America going after Biden. And the Wall Street Journal, yes, they went after him before, but they have done yet another relatively in-depth piece on his failing mental acuity. By the way, he's still president, just for those of you keeping track at home, on how cabinet members were not able to speak to him. They just kept getting stiff-armed and came to understand speaking to the president was just not a possibility, on how all of his aides ran cover for him and acted more like they were the president, on how they had to bring in a voice coach that they got through Jeffrey Katzenberg to help him try to sound more robust, on how in 2020, this is 2020, not 2024, Jill Biden was out there seeing more counties in Iowa, far more than Joe Biden could or was able to see, to the point where his aides had to chastise hers to say, stop telling people that. It doesn't make us look good. On and on it goes. And Charles C.W. Cook raises a good point over at National Review today, saying, where's the accountability? Forget the press, Morning Joe, best Joe Biden ever, for Kamala Harris, who peddled this lie just as much as anyone, and yet remains in an article every other day as the front runner for the 2028 presidential nomination on the Dem side.
A really good point, but I think even a better one is, where is the question her right now? Because she, in a 100-day period of her campaign, refuted almost every position that she'd held. She used to demonstrate for deportation. She said against deportation. She said in the 100 days, I will have to deport people. And then she said she was for fracking. And then she said she was tough prosecutor and she wanted to prosecute people in a way that she was on record in California for defunding the police, and on and on. So now the election's over, and what Kamala Harris is it? Is it the old Kamala Harris that's going to run on her prior record for California governor, or was it the new Kamala Harris that tried to fool and fake her way into the presidency for 100 days? And no one is asking her those questions. Not one reporter is saying, Kamala, what do you believe about fracking right now? Is it what you said 100 days, or is it what you said prior to that? And they could ask that along lines of, 10 or 12 topics, and they won't do it. The other thing that's really disturbing is I can't believe the Wall Street Journal didn't have people leaking this story for the last 4 years. And I know that they didn't want to influence the election, but they could have at least had a little bit more honest reporting. Now it's a pattern here, Megyn. Now that it's all over, they're basically saying to the country, we kept things from you that we can now tell you. And we're sorry that people called you all crazy conspiracy theorists when you said that Joe Biden was demented or had problems. But now we can kind of agree with you. Same thing they did on the border. New York Times wrote an article not long ago. Wow, this is the greatest influx of illegal aliens we've ever seen. This is the greatest number of foreign-born we've ever seen. This is the greatest percentage of people who were residents of the country that were not born in the United States. They knew that the whole time. Now they're telling us. Same thing about Kamala Harris's campaign. Now all of a sudden we're told by the Obama advisors, well, we kind of lied about the momentum, and we were kind of surprised about these polls that they were kind of fake in our favor. And we would kind of look at each other and say, wow, New York Times, Washington Post says she's ahead. They really believed we had momentum. We told everybody we did, but not one of our internal polls showed that she was ever winning. And it's kind of, it really makes long-term, it destroys your confidence if you had any left in this mainstream media as well as Kamala Harris.
Yeah. The Wall Street Journal did do an article on Biden's mental acuity before the election, before his implosion, I should say. Yeah. But this one goes more in depth. And what's interesting is now more and more people are talking, right? Now people on the inside of the administration are ready to own up to the fact that he couldn't speak with cabinet members. And Representative Adam Smith, a Democrat, moderate Democrat in Washington, he's been on the show. He's on the record here saying he sought to talk to Biden to share his insights about Afghanistan and couldn't get on the phone with him. You know, Ron Klain, his then White House chief of staff, was running interference with everybody. Just like Trump, they had to keep all negative news out of Biden's press briefings. Except during Trump, you saw that story everywhere. Trump's so thin-skinned, he can't read bad polls. He can't read negative coverage, which is all the coverage for Trump. Same for Biden. They reveal in this report that they had to pull news clips and they had to make sure that it excluded negative stories. And speaking of the Robert Hur investigation into Joe Biden's retention of classified documents, unlike Trump, from when he was not in a position to have them at his home or anywhere, right? It was a senator, you're supposed to review them in a SCIF, a secure room. You can't take them outside of the office, which he did. Anyway, they said that they took these press sessions with him and that they took 3 hours a day for a week. But Joe Biden couldn't recall the lines that his team had previously discussed with him. And then it came out that in that Hur interview, he couldn't remember when his son Beau died. And Robert Hur said, I can't prosecute this guy. He's a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. That's what a jury will see. And here's what Kamala Harris said after that.
The comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate. The way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated. That when it comes to the role and responsibility of a prosecutor in a situation like that, we should expect that there would be a higher level of integrity than what we saw.
Victor, those lies cost the Democrats the White House. They cost them. Will there be no accountability for her?
None. That was the most asinine thing she said of many asinine things. She didn't even realize that had he not said that, that was to the benefit of her and Joe Biden. Had he not said, and I thought he was almost inappropriate because the role of a prosecutor is to present the evidence, not necessarily to determine the cognitive status of the person who's might be charged. That's up for a jury and a judge to adjudicate. I mean, there's a lot of people who would say to a prosecutor, I'm old and I can't remember. And the IRS, to take one example, is not very sympathetic to that. So what Kamala Harris was basically saying was, I wish Robert Hur had not given the excuse of not prosecuting him, since apparently the evidence was there that he could have presented it to a jury, but he gave us the benefit of the doubt by saying Joe was confused. But he's not confused, ergo, they should have prosecuted him for removing documents in a felonious fashion to 4 different locations over 30 years, and then having a ghostwriter where he disclosed classified information to the ghostwriter, who then destroyed the tapes of it under subpoena, which is a felony. And then he said to Robert Hur, I only did that because I was afraid they'd be hacked. And Hur gave them the benefit of the doubt all the way in those decisions. He said, well, I'm not going to prosecute the speechwriter for destroying evidence, and I'm not going to prosecute Joe Biden for disclosing classified information. And that was one of the things Jack Smith pointed out that allegedly Trump had done to an individual without a security clearance. So Harris didn't realize, or she knew that Biden was the beneficiary of prosecutor discretion. And yet here she is damning him for the very reason that let Joe Biden get off the hook. And she's incoherent. That speech she gave the other day she just gave a speech. You may have recalled that, where it was almost as if she was intoxicated. She couldn't form a sentence. She laughed. She was incoherent. She tried to make fun of this obscure language and pseudo philosophy that she espouses. And it was just the idea that she came close to the presidency is really scary.
Yeah, it's genuinely terrifying. Well, Joe Biden also came close to retaining the presidency and serving a second term. If he hadn't had that meltdown, those senior moments at that June debate, who knows what would have happened? For those of us who have been holding our breath for the past several months, we can finally exhale in the wake of this presidential election, right? Work can finally be done on the major issues that this country's facing, and one of the most significant is our national debt. Look, the fact is our nation's broke, and that debt is a house of cards that cannot be quickly dismantled by anyone. So the strategy remains the same when it comes to your investments. You might want to diversify your savings. Virtually all the experts say that's a good idea. This is why I want to tell you about Birch Gold. So many things are out of our control and out of our president's control that it really can be important to have a safe haven for your savings. Birch Gold Group can help you if you would like to convert all or part of an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, which is like a hedging of the bets. And the best news is it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. You just text MK to 989898 and you get your free info kit. And plus right now you will receive a free 1 ounce Silver Eagle for every $5,000 purchased Silver Eagle coin. Protect your savings with Birch Gold. Text MK to 989898 and claim your eligibility for free silver today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.